Good evening, everyone. Let's wait a couple of minutes until everybody can connect to the session. Still some people are trying to connect, so let's wait 1 minute more and we can start, Albert, after that. Okay, so just let's start so we can keep with the schedule that we have organized for this event. Good evening, everyone in Asia Pacific area, and good morning to those connecting from Europe. My name is Sergio Nespral, and I am the Executive Director of the Spanish Chamber of Commerce in Japan. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to this joint webinar organized by the Spanish Chamber of Commerce Network in Asia, more precisely by the Spanish Chamber of Commerce in Japan, Korea, and the Philippines, under the title How to Attract Top Talent in the Region. During this evening, we will explore with the head of international corporations how important it is to develop a successful talent acquisition strategy, some best practice to retain the talent, and what are the candidates looking for, and some new employer relationships. Before starting, I would like to thank each of you for making time to join today, and also to thank all our guests from Globalization Partners, Albert Barbe, LaLiga, Clara Gimenez, and Robert Walters, Tomokazu Betzold, for giving us this great opportunity to hear their perspectives and personal stories on this topic. We will make time for a Q&A after the session, after the panel, so please make the most of this opportunity to send your questions to the panelists during any time by using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And I don't want to take much time, Albert, so without further ado, let me introduce you to Albert Barbe, Partner Manager of Globalization Partners in Japan. Albert, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction, Sergio. The Spanish Chamber of Commerce in Japan, the Spanish Chamber in Korea and in the Philippines, as well as my sincere appreciation to FEDECOM. It's an honor to be here today. My name is Albert Barbe. I'm the Partner Manager of Globalization Partners in Japan. I'm responsible for building and nurturing partnerships with venture capital, private equity, payroll, tax, accounting, and law firms or business consultants. with these firms, Globalization Partners has set up a mechanism by which business opportunities are mutually exchanged. Globalization Partners' global employment platform and in-country expertise enables companies access talent in 187 countries without the need of setting up subsidiaries or local branches. Globalization Partners' legal and HR technology infrastructure mitigates the cost, time, and pain of establishing your own. In the next 15 minutes, I will be talking on the two main options that corporates have in order to expand their businesses worldwide and in Asian markets. Before starting, let me please invite you to access the QR code in this slide in order to access complementary information about the points and items presented and discussed in this webinar. Feel free to write down your questions in the Q&A function. I will be pleased to answer them at the end of the panel discussion that will follow this presentation. If you want separately to discuss a related issue of interest to your company, feel free to reach me via email. I have been in Japan for over 26 years. I had a chance to meet partners at corporates entering Japan, as well as Japanese friends working for entities expanding outside of this country. Through the experience of setting up a legal entity in the target country, some of them were relatively satisfied, some not so much, and some certainly not at all. A couple of them even had to go through the process of winding up the entities that with so much effort they had contributed to set up. And the question they often asked was, could it have been done differently? Was there another way to expand into Asian markets? And the answer is yes, there is. And this is what I will present to you during the next few minutes. What are the main options companies have to expand into Asian markets? There are basically two. Either you register a legal entity, a local branch, or you contract the services of a so-called employer of record or global employment platform. So the question is essentially which way to go in order to enter into a new Asian market and hire talent. Obviously, each case involves a different situation, and business needs at stake are completely different. Understood, we cannot deal here with all the possibilities, all the cases that can happen. However, I aim at providing you with some general framework to motivate you eventually to think on this topic from a completely different angle. Everyone has a basic understanding of what registering a legal entity involves, the process to be followed, negotiating with a law firm, discussions with financial accountants, applying for and getting the required administrative approvals and licenses while following the mandatory procedures, opening a bank account, building a human resource structure to hire, onboard, and do the payroll of your employees, keeping track of all regulatory changes that affect your company in order to be and remain compliant, and so on. What may not be so easily understood is what an employer of record is. Let me please explain this concept by using the business model of the largest and most innovative player today in this industry. Globalization Partners has a valuation of $4.2 billion US and counts on a team of over 1,000 employees serving 187 countries. Globalization Partners enables companies in different sectors, from SMEs, startups, to large companies involved in M&A transactions, to hire talent anywhere in the world in an easy and fully compliant way without, and this is very important, without the need of setting up a legal entity in the target country or countries. The employer of record focuses on managing payroll, taxes, benefits, and compliance in connection to the employers of its customers. By doing this, the customer is able to test new markets, access global talent, and minimize and manage risk, while focusing on growing its revenue from day one. To the eyes of the local regulator, the EOR is the legal employer of its customers' employees. And this is the reason of the term employer of record. Meanwhile, the customer deals with his or her daily business. This slide contains a comparison table underlining the main differences between setting up an entity in an Asian country and contracting the services of an employer of record. In terms of time required, taking into consideration the differences in particular countries, registering a legal entity requires from 2 to 6 months, sometimes 9, sometimes a year before completion of all the necessary procedures. An employer of record enables your firm to hire and onboard within a matter of days, if not hours, when the talent is already identified. Depending on the country and number of employees to be hired, there are capital requirements to be complied with, registration fees, legal advisory fees when setting up an entity. There is a cost for the financial experts involved and for the payroll administration of the entity employees. The cost involved in contracting an EOR is based on each employee to be hired and transferred to the said EOR. This means that fees required for registering a legal branch, opening a bank account, contracting the services of financial and legal experts, capital requirements, etc., do not obviously apply because no entity setup is needed when working with an EOR. Registering an entity means to take due care of tax issues, corporate income tax, VAT, and so on. When contracting an EOR, the EOR assumes this responsibility and pays all local taxes applicable. This is not only in connection to taxes. Registering an entity requires local experts that can navigate all regulatory and compliance changes. The EOR also assumes this task completely. Companies have to find the talent and issue employment contracts that need to be compliant with local labor laws. The EOR helps its customers find the talent when needed and issue the compliant employment contracts to be signed with the employees to be transferred to the EOR payroll system. In the event of termination of a contractual relationship with their employees, companies need local experts to avoid wrongful termination. The EOR advises its customers on how to proceed with such employment termination cases while managing the entire process. Proper communication is always essential. The EOR counts on a team of local HR specialists to assist their customers and professionals. Finally, if for whatever reason, commercial or other, the entity register is to be winded up, the additional cost and effort required is considerable. If you have decided to contract the services of an EOR, at any moment you can finish your contractual relationship, clean cut, no penalty applicable. The difference between the two options is also on this aspect fundamental. Let's go to the next slide. Once the main differences between the two options available for market expansion are clear, what are the relevant questions that help us conclude whether registering a local branch or contracting the service of an EOR makes more business sense to the specific case? If you are managing an automobile factory and you need to hire 200 employees and engineers, you may prefer a corporate structure. Something different will be if you want to hire 1, 2, 10, 20 employees and manage a startup or an SME or a larger company for which time is of essence. Or an M&A transaction requiring the transfer of a number of employees during a very short period of time. Then an EOR gives you the flexibility and prompt reply that your business needs. Perhaps you are interested in hiring the country manager or the business development director of a team, and you don't want to delay the process because you need results now. Maybe you have already decided that whatever it takes, you want to be in a market. Whatever it happens, you have the budget to support you and choose to register an entity. Or perhaps you want to test the market first, and depending on the results, 1, 2, 3 years later, decide whether or not to stay longer. Only an EOR provides such flexibility in a fully compliant way. Do you already count on specialists in payroll, accounting, tax, and compliance? If you do, setting up a branch will then likely be the way to go. You don't? The technical and HR support of an EOR will be then preferable. Again, each case involves conditions and requirements to be considered. This and other related questions guide us on the most suitable way to expand our business across Asian markets. You have decided to go for a fast, easy to implement, fully compliant, cost-effective mechanism to hire in an Asian market in which you don't have a legal entity. Now, you need to choose an EOR that is a good fit for your business. Not all EOR with whom you are talking are the same. How to pick up the right one? Simple. Ask questions, many questions. Here you can see some of them that may guide you. You want to know if the EOR with whom you are interacting has a legal team large enough to stay up with any regulatory changes in the Asian market in which you want to hire. Same thing for tax purposes. You want to know if your EOR counts on a large team of tax specialists to navigate tax regulations applicable to your employees. You need to know how many HR specialists are available to you for solving any needs that your employees on the ground may have. Ask questions on what other customers say about that EOR. Get case studies. Ask whether your EOR depends on third-party applications to monitor your employees' payroll and handle their data privacy. If they do, that may be a red flag. You want to select an EOR that owns its own proprietary technology so that the data of your employees is fully protected. An EOR that keeps operations in-house as much as possible is an excellent signal. You don't want an EOR that depends on third-party providers on the ground before going back to you on every single question that you ask. Is your EOR financially stable? Who are its investors? Their funding amounts? This will give you good insight on the financial and legal due diligence checks performed. You want to work with an EOR that has a strong cash position, a known or small debt. The monthly salary check of your most important asset, your employees, depends on it. Don't forget. Thank you for your attention. Again, please feel free to download additional information on the issue that we have discussed so far and we are about to in the panel discussion via this QR code. I will be delighted to answer your questions later on at the end of the panel discussion. Thank you very much. Let's proceed now with the panel discussion. These days, it is difficult to enter into a business conversation without hearing comments about the next recession coming and its potential influence on the recruiting market. The long pandemic process that we continue experiencing also motivated companies worldwide, and particularly in Asia, to adopt remote work as well as hybrid models for attracting the right talent that will enable their corporate expansion plans in Asia Pacific. Specific markets are replying to this slightly differently. Companies are also reshaping their traditional attitude to entering new markets in Asia. To the traditional option of registering a legal entity in new markets, companies in the US and Europe for the last 10 years have been contracting the services of EOR service providers in search for more flexibility for their market expansion plans. More recently, companies in Asia Pacific are also benefiting from this EOR alternative. To talk on this and many other related topics, we are today with Clara Gimenez Vilchez, Global Mobility and International Labor Expert at Liga Group International from Madrid, Spain. Welcome, Clara.
Hello, thank you, Albert, for this kindly introduction. It's a pleasure to be here, and I just want to thank you all for this opportunity here.
And Tomokazu Betzold, Director, Tech and Transformation at Robert Walters Japan. Welcome, Tomo.
Thank you, Albert. Glad to be here, and thank you to the Spanish Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity as well. Looking forward to the discussion.
Let's start with Tomo. Tomo, how do you consider the current recruiting market situation in Asia Pacific? How will you separate your most active clients needing your recruiting services in terms of their size and economic sectors in which they operate?
Sure. Yeah. First, a little bit about our business, just to set some context behind that. So Robert Walters in Asia, our business specializes in recruiting multilingual professionals for international companies. And we have particular expertise in working with new market entrants to help them with their hiring for the first time in the region, in specific countries here. So for our business, we've been operating for nearly 40 years now, and we're in 31 countries around the world. But by far, our most significant business region is Asia Pacific. So this is really where we consider our business to be very specialized and focused on delivering to clients. The way that I would describe, obviously Asia Pacific is a very rich and varied region of the world, and certainly nuances between countries, but overall I would say that the recruitment market is very active and very competitive here. So our business, we've got a very varied and diverse client portfolio. So we work with Fortune 500 companies, we work with SMEs, we work with startups as well. So in terms of the industry sectors that we work with, they range from technology, my area of specialization, to financial services, from manufacturing to healthcare, from retail and hospitality to energy and infrastructure, and many more beyond that as well. So, we pride ourselves on our ability to adapt to our clients, regardless of what their industry is, what their scale is, and what their experience is here in this part of the world. I would say that the keys to coming to recruit here for the first time is really about understanding the local market conditions, understanding the local regulations, and really that's our responsibility as your recruitment partner, to educate you on those things, to advise you on those things. But understanding things like English fluency, for example, can vary significantly from country to country in this region. Also, I think compared to other parts of the world, recruitment fees here can be higher than they are in other parts of the world. And so, you know, we're very happy to explain why that is. And there are good reasons for that. But understanding some of these things, the regulations that are in place, for example, you know, what does the ratio need to be between local hires and foreigners employed in your office in particular countries, if there are any regulations around those sorts of things. So these are all points that we can help educate our clients about. In terms of the market being active and being competitive, perhaps if I can take my own country here, Japan, as an example, you know, the job open rate in this country is 1.22. Meaning that for every job seeker here in Japan, there are 1.22 jobs available. So there are literally more jobs than job seekers in this country. And when we zone in on metropolitan areas like Tokyo, that increases to 1.34. Then when we start to add in professional skill sets that you're looking to hire for, so for example, if you're looking to hire somebody in tech, a tech engineer, that increases to over 3.2. If you're looking for a healthcare specialist, again, that's over 3. For the service sector, that's operating at about 2.7 right now. And this is before we add in English fluency, bilingual ability, because our clients are international businesses, in which case then those numbers grow even more. So, you know, I think that gives you a sense perhaps of, you know, how competitive it is, how much it is a candidate-driven market in Japan, certainly. And so, you know, what do you need to do as a company that's looking to establish a business here, who needs to hire and create that local expertise and knowledge base. And I think really understanding those conditions is the starting point. I think fundamentally, it doesn't matter who you are, hiring and hiring well is challenging here. And so understanding what it is that candidates are looking for, understanding, am I just competing with other businesses in my sector, or am I competing across sectors for the same talent? Those sorts of nuances make a real difference in what your recruitment strategy should be. And that's what, of course, we're there to advise our clients on. But yeah, I would say a very active market, highly competitive, but also rich with talent and potential as well.
Very, very amazing ratios, Tomo. Thank you. Clara, could you please share with us your experience expanding throughout the Asia-Pacific region? What would you say that the main challenges of expanding and hiring throughout the region have been for LaLiga? You are on mute, Clara.
Yes, thank you. In 2017, LaLiga decided to export its product abroad to Spain. So it was through an international strategy to reach all the main global markets. So for the APAC zone, it was especially important because of its economic and demographic potential, but above all, due to the passion for Spanish football in this area. So it was quite important, and also LaLiga had never been before in Asia. So there was a lot of room for expansion. So we opened a legal entity in Singapore as a hub, and also we moved 10 employees under an international assignment to different 10 countries. So there was 1 employee per country, and the main goal was to have a very local approach to each market. So each employee lives and works in destination country, speaks local language, and finally is the brand awareness of LaLiga abroad Spain. So the proof of success of this international strategy is that in the last season, which has finalized last month in June 2022, LaLiga has organized more than 369 events in the APAC zone. So that's more than 1 event per day in this regional zone. Regarding the biggest challenge, of course, it has been for international HR to being able to manage this large variety of profiles, of countries, nationalities, temporalities, of LaLiga's employees, and of course of their labor relationships. So from our department, we have carried out all this management with my colleagues Carolina and Gloria, and it's quite complicated because it's necessary to know firsthand labor, immigration, social security, tax, local legislation, but for 42 countries where LaLiga has presence. So what it's essential here is to surround ourselves with good providers, with good immigration providers, with good employee of records provider. So we are happy that our work is easier, and of course that our employees are in perfect compliance with local legislation.
Certainly, Clara, we can just confirm that Real Madrid and Barcelona here in Japan provoke complete social craziness. It's followed very well. Tomo, would you say that the challenges mentioned by Clara are shared by your clients as well? I mean, the knowledge that is required of labor laws, immigrations, also job candidates requiring English, eventually Spanish.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you factor in all the different local languages throughout this region that you need to execute those things on. I think, yeah, the real key, and it's what Clara is speaking to, is there's a real ecosystem in place to connect our clients to all the different sort of providers that they need to help with all of these different things. So, I know with Globalization Partners, immediately upon engaging your business, the next step is needing to hire, and so there's obviously then an opportunity for us to step in and help those clients, and likewise we are putting our clients in touch with other vendors as well as we're assisting them with their recruitment processes. So I think however you take that first step into the region, that provider, that vendor that you're working with should be able to help connect you through other partners as well that can help you to settle these other aspects of the business.
I see. Thank you. Remote working, let's move on this topic. It has become more and more frequently used by companies during the past 2 years. Tomo, how do your clients approach remote working these days? And how do you anticipate that this demand will continue in the next 6 to 9 months?
Yeah, for sure. Big topic, of course. I mean, the pandemic has necessitated remote work for everyone to varying degrees. And certainly we've seen that drive a lot of hiring needs around digital transformation initiatives. And so, I think it's clear that the way that we work, has been impacted permanently going forward. I think that companies are still really thinking through and trying to figure out what's the right balance with that. And, right now, I think there is perhaps an opportunity in many countries across the region to be back in the office. And so I think companies are trying to decide whether to demand that their employees return to the office, or alternatively incentivize their employees back into the office. And if so, how often? We conducted a survey recently of companies where we asked these questions, and almost 90% of the companies said that they would continue with remote work after the pandemic. And then in terms of how often would they offer remote work, the most common answer was 2 days a week. So slight bias to being together and in the office 3 days a week, but offering that flexibility with two days a week being able to work remotely. So that's seems to be where a lot of companies are landing. Obviously, we can think of examples globally of cases that are on one extreme or the other. But I think what's clear is that companies understand that the expectations of professionals has changed because of the experience we've all just gone through. And so in order to attract and retain the best talent, you need to be able to offer work flexibility. So this is going to be integral as part of your recruiting efforts to attract people and to keep them. And it looks to me that the role of the office for companies going forward is really going to be more about collaboration and getting together for fun activities rather than being the place where work has to get done. So a real shift for sure.
Thank you, Tomo. Clara, in your expansion plans to scale up in Asia Pacific, how do you perceive the opportunities opened by remote working alternatives? Do you see it as a way to overcome the lack of specialized talent eventually in specific markets?
Well, it depends on the area that we are talking about. For example, regarding our main international project, which is LaLiga Global Network, LaLiga's international strategy is that employees should be in destination country. So we have a network of 42 employees in 44 different countries. Why do we need these employees to be in destination country? Because we need them to understand local market, to have the market intelligence, to understand local football and the know-how of this country. So this local presence with local market intelligence and absolutely building relationships creates more opportunities for La Liga. So we want to take a route in each market and of course to create long-term relationships. Mm-hmm. But for example, regarding the lack of specialized talent, I think the best example to explain how La Liga combats this lack of specialized talent in APAC zone is through our area named Sport Projects. Sport Projects develops different formations and academies, some on the distance, some in destination. And as an example, we have performed almost 200 projects since 2015 in 8 different countries in the APAC zone. So what we do is we export our methodology or know-how to combat this lack of specialized talent. Here, yes, we use, for example, remote work. But just to give you some numbers, I think it's quite strong. Since 2015, La Liga has trained local coaches for more than 11,000 people. And regarding local players, 169,000 people. So that's an enormous amount. And also La Liga have coaches, by the way, and they follow the itinerary of these local APAC trainers to confirm their develop is greater each year.
Amazing numbers, congratulations. Which markets are you targeting at this moment, Clara? Is registering a legal entity in the target country the only option La Liga considers to expand in this region, or are you open to the alternative of contracting employer of record services as well?
Well, globally, we have presence in 42 countries through 6 subsidiaries and also for 44 delegates. In the APAC zone, as I have said, we have a subsidiary in Singapore as the hub zone. And also we have in La Liga Global Network delegates in different countries. Currently, we have presence in 10 countries, which is Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, South Korea, Philippines, Japan, India, Thailand, with controlling from distance, Laos, Myanmar, and Cambodia, And finally, Australia, controlling from distance, New Zealand. So also here we can talk about remote work, for example, for the Australian delegate who works also for New Zealand. Regarding your second question, if registering a legal entity is the only option, no, it's not the only option, at least from LaLiga's business. We have one subsidiary, one legal entity in Singapore, but as I have said, we have other 9 employees in countries where we don't have legal entities. So we want from international HR to be sure that all of our employees are in perfect compliance with labor and immigration legislation. So we surround ourselves with good providers, with employee of record services to allow this situation. But also, for example, in sport projects, we have also partners, and we work hand in hand with public and private institutions who act as employer of or coaches or technical directors in destination country.
I see.
But
I see.
Just one point is that we also maintain relationship between LaLiga and the employee, even though there is an employer of record, which is a bit different than the normality.
Understood. Understood. Tomo, what are professionals looking for from potential employers when job hunting these days? Are there any significant differences between now and before the pandemic?
Yeah, certainly. I think the pandemic has disrupted all of our lives and every aspect of them. And I think it's really driven, candidates, people to think about what really matters. And, that applies to their careers as well. And so, I think how we work has changed, as I said, with the necessity of remote working. And, what was before a perk and a benefit for a few digital nomads is now an expectation of all professionals, of HR professionals, marketing specialists, accountants. It's really across the board. But yeah, I think it's not just about candidates now expect work flexibility and the ability to work remotely. I think it's also about meaning, that people want to do meaningful work. And so, I think the so-called Great Resignation that we saw in the US is really about that, right? Really about people wanting to work for a company whose vision and whose mission they relate to, whose values align with their values. And so, before it used to be candidates are looking for better pay with a better title at a better brand. And now, well, they're still looking for better pay. That's never going to change, but it's better pay with more flexibility, more autonomy, with a company that's collaborative, innovative, and that they relate to in terms of the values. So I think that's a real paradigm shift from before, for sure.
Yeah, indeed. Clara, do you see something similar in the job candidates interested in working for LaLiga in Asia Pacific?
Well, we have different requirements, and depending on the country where they are going to be designated, we add additional requirements. For example, we always look for a proactive young person, higher education, international previous experience, and to know several languages. The most important characteristic that difference one job candidate to determine if he can work in a specific country is the knowledge in this special market country, and of course the control of the language of this country. So I want to give you an example, and is that it's not the same for LaLiga business manager to approach to an Australian firm or a Japanese firm. So what we need in the candidate who is moving, for example, to Australia, is to know the culture of this specific country, because he is going to have direct contact with local stakeholders, with local broadcasters, journalists, fans. So what we need is to know the language, of course, but also the culture and the specific knowledge of this country.
Mm-hmm. Tomo, what are the companies currently successful at hiring doing to stand out from the competition and attract job seekers? What are they doing?
Yeah, I think they're doing what successful companies or companies who are successful at hiring have always done, which is really understand the local labor market and understand what people are looking for, and then adjust themselves accordingly. Adjusting themselves in terms of how they recruit. And so, when I say that candidates today are looking for greater flexibility, they're looking for meaning in their work, I think successful companies are making it clear the flexibility that they offer. They're talking about and selling their company's mission, things that they're involved in to support the community with ED&I initiatives, these sorts of things, and they're talking about these things. They are not merely assessing the candidate for the job that they need filled. I think successful companies understand it's a two-way street. They're trying to find the right person for them, but job seekers are trying to find the right company for them as well. And I think successful companies understand that they need to be out on their front foot, selling themselves to these prospective employees.
Thank you. Thank you. Clara, could you please share with us what LaLiga is doing in this regard?
Yes, LaLiga is a global innovative organization and is leader in the entertainment sector. So it's responsible for the organization of professional football competitions in Spain for its 42 clubs that comprises, and also is responsible for the marketing of audiovisual rights of the clubs. Regarding the international area of LaLiga, as a consequence of the growing of the passion for football, for Spanish football in this area, LaLiga works every day to promote the Spanish football beyond its borders. So that's in summary what LaLiga is. And
how does LaLiga take advantage of technology to stay ahead of competition?
Well, in 2021, last year, LaLiga approved a strategic agreement with an investment fund with the main goal of boost the global growth of LaLiga and its clubs. So an expected growth which will take place in 20 years for the club will be carried out through an growth acceleration project in more or less for 5 years. So how we work in this project is we see it with each club. We see where they are, where they want to be, and we make an analysis of different aspects, among other technology, internationalization, etc. And some objectives are set to be made in the coming year. So regarding technology, we work through a business intelligence method, and LaLiga monitors the club's work, what has been performed, what is focused, objectives, and also LaLiga supports these clubs to develop technology around the world, in Spain and abroad Spain, and provides technology in-house.
I see. Thank you. Thank you. Tomo, previously, Clara mentioned some markets throughout the Asia Pacific as the ones attracting more interest for LaLiga. Are these the markets that attract also the attention of Robert Walters' customers these days?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, we have offices in most of those countries that Clara named. A few of them we don't, but and I think LaLiga's strategy is one that we see oftentimes with our clients as well, where they will select a certain location to be its hub in the region. And perhaps establish a legal entity there, and then expand out from that central hub, but not necessarily establishing legal entities across all locations that they're going to have a representative in. So yeah, that's a very familiar approach for us. But yeah, for our business, we do have offices across most of those countries that LaLiga mentioned to be able to support the local recruiting efforts there.
Thank you both for your very insightful comments. I would like to wrap up with perhaps any additional final comments that you may have. Let's start with Tomo.
Nothing additional to add from my side. Just thank you again for the discussion, and thank you for facilitating this, Albert. And once again, thank you to the Spanish Chamber of Commerce. It's been great.
Thank you, Tomo. Clara, do you have something else to say?
Nothing else from my side, just to thank you, all of you, and remember that we have to surround with good providers for the success of our business.
Thank you both. Let's go to the Q&A section. I'm opening now the function available, and I see a couple of questions. Let me please read the first question. If a company decides to contract employer of record services and not setting up a legal entity in a target country, does it mean that any business decision is to be previously agreed with the EOR service provider? Well, I think that question is, is for me. So yeah, no, I mean, again, very simply stated, the answer is no. The EOR focus on payroll, tax, benefits, and compliance in connection to the employees. The EOR doesn't get involved in managing the business of its customers. So certainly no prior approval whatsoever is required from the EOR for the company to perform its business the way they want. Certainly not. And another question has entered. Let me please see. Is there a minimum time period for contracting EOR services? Again, for me, is the question. Let's say 6 or 9 months, or a minimum number of employees to be hired through an EOR mechanism. Thank you for the question. There is no minimum time period for contracting EOR services. Obviously, we consider that 1 year or over 1 year is a reasonable time spent to nurture and develop the relationship with the EOR service provider, but no, there is no minimum time period for that. The question inserts the example of 6, 9 months, that's perfectly fine. A minimum number of employees to be hired? No, there is no requirement. Starting from 1, that's possible. 1, 2, 3, 10, 20. 1 is fine. Sergio, these are the questions that I received. Have you received some additional questions on your side?
No, so far those are the questions. Just invite anybody. So I think
yes, one question
for Tomo.
We do not have an office in India, and that, but that is something that yeah, we are discussing as a business.
Tomo, just to follow up this question, like in which countries do you have an office in the APAC region? If you have the
many. So starting with my part of the region, Northeast Asia. So we have an office in Seoul, and then we have 2 offices in Japan, in Tokyo and Osaka. And we have offices throughout China, So we have an office in Hong Kong, but also in mainland China in several locations. We have offices throughout Southeast Asia, so you can maybe see Singapore as a hub there for us as well. But we have offices in Malaysia and Thailand and Vietnam and et cetera across that region. We have offices across New Zealand and Australia as well on the southern end. So yeah, yeah, quite a presence, as I said.
The next one will be India, probably.
Yes, it's the big elephant in the room for sure. Yeah.
Albert, I think another question came into the chat.
Yes, when your provider employs someone in Japan on behalf of client, for example, what type of employment contract do you generally use? And how easy is to terminate that contract should the client wish to cease contract with EOR? Okay, thank you for this question. The employment contracts that we issue and we sign with the employees of our customers are fully customized. We don't follow a template, which means that obviously those customized employment contracts have to be fully compliant with local laws, but we don't use a template. They are fully customized, and obviously they have to respect the minimum level of legal requirements in that country. The second part of the question is how easy it is to terminate that contract? Obviously, labor relations and termination of labor relations have to be handled with due care. Certainly, the legal procedures have to be followed extensively, but EOR service providers will guide their customers on how to proceed with legal terminations according to the laws applicable. I have to say that several weeks ago, I was involved in a legal termination that ended favorably for all the parties at the stake. So this is an issue to be taken with due care, but obviously that's life.
I think, Albert, this is a question that we can also send to Clara, that will have another view of it. Like, Clara, do you have a template for your contracts in every country, or you adapt all your conditions to?
Well, it depends on the employer of records. We have different employer of records depending on the zone. We have one general employer of records, but for example, in some countries we have a employer of records which are locally registered in or are a little business. And we, as I have said before, we continue having a relationship with our employees, even if the employer of record employs or employees. So we don't cease this contract. We just prepare an employment contract annex where we set new conditions considering this employer of record condition. So we attend to local legislation, and with that we review the annex. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Clara. It's already 7:05, so I think if it is okay and we don't have any more questions, we can finish the session here. I think everybody agree. So thank you, Albert, Clara, Tomo. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving us all this information. Just from our side, saying that the Spanish Chamber of Commerce in Asia region, but especially in Japan, Korea, and the Philippines, we organize events almost every week. So please stay updated and follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, on all our social accounts, and nothing else from our side. I hope to see you again in upcoming activities, and thank you very much for joining us today. Well, bye-bye.
Thank you so much.